So our next speaker is Dara. She'll be explaining us her journey in the world of data science and her experiences in the industry. So Dara, you can take over. Yeah, she's also a software development engineer at one of the companies at Fang. Dara, I think your mic is off.
Oops, I'm sorry. Everyone can see my screen? Thanks a lot for the mention.
Yep, can see.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the invite. So glad to be here. Hi everyone again, my name is Dara. I am a software development engineer currently working at one of the FANG companies. For those of you who don't know, FANG is like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. And today I'm going to be talking about this small experience I've had so far in the last 2.5 years, whereby I was working as a software engineer and then I switched to data scientist and then I switched back to being a software engineer. So this talk will basically explain why did that happen and how did this whole transition went by. But before we went through that, just a quick intro of myself. I participated in more than 30 hackathons so far while working in Malaysia in this company called Seek Asia. Most of you probably know it as JobStreet or JobTV in Hong Kong. And in there, I actually made that switch from software engineering to data science. And then I was invited to talk on 30 plus different tech events, talks, meetups, including Singapore. There was one in Google, Singapore, that was very awesome. I love the energy there of people. Then I also love technology. That's why, like you see that diverse experience, but still it was all around tech. And I'm sorry guys, but I still hate durians, though I lived in Malaysia for like 5 years. But I still couldn't get to love that fruit of yours. That's why I'm in Spain right now. Okay. So before I answer the main question, I would like to have a bit of a prehistory there. And I know, like as you probably noticed, I love anime. That's why you see all of these characters. It's adding a bit of drama here. So why software, right? Software engineering has money. Like I was sure to know that I wouldn't be starving to death and I would still be able to earn enough to sustain myself, but also to maybe save up some money as well. Work remotely, that's a great point because I don't necessarily like going to office and I still, like I believe that going to office is a wasted time and energy that you could just start from home and just do your job there and have more time to do your own things that you love. Then technology and innovation. I mean, everything that I've done so far was always surrounded by the innovation and technology, and that's why I love hackathon so much because it's all about trying something new, trying something unexplored. You always learn something new. I always was scared to stop learning because I've seen what it does to people when they get older, and for me it was a kind of a dead end. I didn't want to get there, and I really love the fact that technology is always evolving, and that's why there is always something to learn. So yeah, that's one of the reasons as well. Many things are still unknown in the sense that I would be able to bring something new to the table, bring something like try something that was not being there before. So that is something that gives me excitement, gives me energy, and that's kind of a part of my ikigai as well, to bring that innovation. It's multifunctional, so you can technically change from one to the other. Like if it says software engineer, you would not be doing only software engineering. You would be probably thrown into doing websites, backend, front end, doesn't matter. You would be probably thrown into doing mobile. Like in the past 4 months while I'm here, I've been doing mobile development with Kotlin, and I've been doing some of the React as well, and some of the backend and Ruby as well for some reason. So you can see that it's very diverse and different. and I can get visa with that. FYI, I'm from Kazakhstan, and for us to get a visa for work is not the easiest thing to do, and therefore I decided that this particular field will get me the visa that I need to work. So why data science? While I was working in my previous company as a software engineer, it's been almost or more than a year that I've worked there as a software engineer. And at that point of time, data science became one of the hottest topics to talk about in all of the events, all of the different kind of meetups and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested, so why not try it out? So I tried it. I liked it. I took at that point a boot camp provided by Dr. Lau. Maybe you guys know, maybe you guys don't know. And there was another hackathon that I participated, and I got a Udacity scholarship. So I chose machine learning machine learning engineering Udacity, non degree at that point, and therefore, I really loved the things I've done there so far. And I started talking to my manager, initiated the conversation to get this whole transition going. It wasn't an easy one because data science is still unexplored, and to be honest, the requirements are still unclear even now for me to be a data scientist. So after talking to my manager, after he was very supportive at that point, and he started talking to the data science team at that time, and we started kind of collaborating in one of the projects that my team was working on, and I started doing more of a data science job, and then it was official. I became a data scientist afterwards. And then at that point of time, I felt like software engineering is a bit boring. Well, it's like you're doing a small thing, a very insignificant, and you'll be thinking that you can do way more. And you're young, you're aspired, you think that you can do way more. And in corporate, unfortunately, it's most of the time not the case. So it seemed to be boring, but boring at what sense? I wasn't feeling excited and pumped up doing certain things because it was becoming repetitive. And then my software team at that time had very small and not so significant projects in comparison to data science, which then I realized that it wasn't necessarily the case, which I will tell you later. But that was the kind of the feel and sense of thinking at that point of time that I would want to converse here. And then later on, I would love to kind of share why did I switch back. So, and again, in order to switch, I've realized that it's not an easy one to switch to, because most of the time they require masters or PhD, and I'm like, I don't have any, I don't want to take any. So yeah, that's one of those reasons as well. Why did I get back to software engineering? Well, it was easier to get a job, not necessarily even a job, but an interview. When I was working on in May 2019, if I'm not wrong, I was thinking in my head that this is not progressing anywhere again. I was feeling stagnant in some sense. And as being said here, I kind of overestimated data science, and most of the time I had to simply clean data and that's it. And there was a bit of a small portion of machine learning to be done there, but it was very small, and I was excited for 1 week, and the rest of the few months I was bored cleaning data. So I felt like it's not necessarily worth it. So again, there were interesting projects, but in a year time, while I was a data scientist, nothing was deployed. For me, it's a big alarming sense here that I'm not delivering, I'm not getting anywhere with this. And moreover, my team was having some troubles as well at the time. So I was like, okay, that's not supposed to go that way. Let's think about something else. So I started applying to different companies, to different jobs to see what's there on the market. And I quickly realized that getting into data science job is way harder than getting into a software engineer job. Though I didn't work as a software engineer for a year, they were still considering me and inviting for interviews. But data scientist jobs or machine learning engineer jobs, they were all kind of like, it felt like they're contradicting to themselves. The job description was saying something, but then in reality, when I was invited for the interview, it was something else. If I was invited for the interview, if you were to compare the moments I was invited to interview as a software engineer and data scientist, it was like this. So in that sense, I was like, okay, that's not working, and plus the demand is not as high as in software engineering. So probably I'll try and get into software engineering. So I started preparing. I started getting into all of these algorithmization and data structure questions, lead coding a lot. Then doing some behavioral questions as well. And also, like, I didn't want to apply straight away. I still wanted to give it a try within my own company, and still wanted to have some time to prepare in the most best case scenario way, but it doesn't always work that way. So I remember there was an email from Google at the time, Singapore hiring, that I was like, okay, if I'm not gonna try that out, I will regret it. So I tried it, I failed it, but I've learned a lot. So that was a software engineering first kind of interview that I got a feel of it from Frank kind of level. And that was the time that I was like, okay, that's how it works. Now I know how should I approach it. Now I know what will be expected, and I will not choose C++ to do that. I'll choose Python because it's easier for whiteboarding. So that's the kind of the journey there. And I remember there was also a machine learning engineer title given from Twitter. I applied, and it was a bit weird because they were kind of agreeing on, they were kind of passing me to the next stage, but then somehow they went silent. And that was the kind of the overall feel I felt like about machine learning and software and data science, is the fact that the market itself doesn't know what it wants, and like the demand was not as high, and they, like, even in my previous company, sometimes people from different teams were wondering, what is it that data science do, and what can we give to you guys? So those are kind of the miscommunications, misconceptions that were there in data science. And therefore I was like, okay, I would rather go to something that is more clear to me and something that I can grow as an individual in. And that's how it kind of went back to software engineering. Do I regret that choice? No, but I miss it sometimes. I really love the process of it, like the machine learning, the kind of the modeling, the feature importance that you can see, all of these kind of different experiments you can conduct, all of this communications established, kind of findings, like the interesting insights that you can find in data. But like, as I mentioned, 90% of the time it was about cleaning the data. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how should I say it, but software engineers, when they first developed the systems, they didn't necessarily bother about how they save data. And therefore, data that had been saved was having a lot of different inputs that were meaningless at the end of the day. And when you see the data being like millions of data, then you would start cleaning it, and then it gets shorter and shorter, and then you realize there's not much insights you can get from it. If it was like clearly being done from the beginning, then yes, you would have a lot of insights. And actually, I've heard that Russia is really getting better at it, because they were very diligent about how they store data, and therefore they got a lot of insights, and they actually were able to predict the likelihood of people leaving the company very well, and they increased the percentage of people staying by 5%, if I'm not wrong. But like, for the numbers they had as an employees, it was a very huge difference. So as that, like, that kind of data science, yes, that's a very interesting part of it. But when, like, most of the time in most of the companies, that was the case. And I think it's also kind of diverging with software engineering, because for data scientists nowadays, what I see as an example is that they are kind of like moving towards software engineering, at least while I was working, I felt like they need those kind of concepts, because the way they write code was not necessarily always clear. So I felt in at that point that they both need to learn from each other. Software engineers has to learn how to store data and basically get the right data from the beginning. Data scientists have to learn how to write better code, because when I was looking at the codes that they wrote at the time, my eyes was bleeding with blood because they were having multiple duplications all over the places. There were kind of things that were repetitive all over the places, but could have been optimized if they were to know certain things. There were no unit testing at that point for all of the stuff. We were starting to write all of these unit tests, and there were lots of things that you could have learned from software and bring it into data science that would have improved their work as well. So yeah, that's the kind of the deal with it. And another point here that I quickly get to learn is that there are, like, I don't necessarily care which part of it I should work on, either data science or software engineering. I care about the product and all of the things that will be built upon that. So for example, if you were to ask me to work on something that is very interesting to me, like we're now working with authors and basically improving their life on our platforms, and I don't necessarily care if I'm data scientist or software engineer, so long as I bring value to it, and so long as I'm touching the project, and so long that I'm the leader of that, I'm showcasing my leadership skills, I'm driving the conversations, and I can actually get to the point of getting some interesting insights of it. So there is an interesting mentioning by David Negara, who is a vice president of books and Kindle content at Amazon. There are two types of people: fans of the technology and fans of the product. There are hybrids, but it's harder for them. So, like, the main saying here is that there are technology fans who are very into data science on its own, for example, or very into the software engineering, for example, React technologies on its own. So they will be basically choosing the project they work on based on that technology, not based on the product they are going to be working on. For me, I would rather choose based on the product, and not necessarily, and kind of compromising in terms of what technology I'll be working on. I would still be very much eager to work on something that is required analytical skills, required some hard skills to be there, but I wouldn't be so much into saying, no, I will only do React and that's it. I will not do anything else. And the hybrids are the people who want to work with the product and with the technology. You can imagine how hard it is for them in any company they choose to work at, because the technology always change. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Just a quick one for the intros and how you can find me. Here are all of the details. There is a QR codes given that you can use to scan and find me. So, and then there is also like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm open to connect. Just drop me a message. My company is hiring, so you can also ask for referrals if you want to. But I will be able to help if only you're applying for software engineering. For data scientists, don't ask me. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Open for questions. Yeah, I would love to have a Q&A.
All right. Anybody has any questions? If someone is shy, they can type it in also.
Don't be shy. I'm not gonna bite.
Okay, maybe I'll ask some questions.
Sure.
As for your resume, right, while you applied for FANG,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think made you stand out? Like, what are important things that you should have in your resume?
That's a very good question. I think many people who are entering university think that university is Why am I getting muted? Okay. I think that's working now. So basically, one of the things that stand out was basically my work experience and how diverse it was. Because while I was studying at my third year of university, I was already freelancing a lot. And I've been doing a lot of things such as Android development, Internet of Things, um, virtual reality, some of it, some of the projects were related to augmented reality as well. So the diversity of the experience that I've had, and plus the things that I've tried, I think that was the main catching point. And also the hackathons and the speaking experience that I've had would also bring some value. And I think it was certifications such as Udacity, such as AWS. I had passed one for cloud practitioner at that time, and I'm really into getting a solution architect now to be more specialized. So yeah, that's I guess one of the most important factors that got me in, and plus networking. I already knew quite a number of people working at Google, Amazon, Facebook as well. So um, their help in kind of correcting my resume, and plus their help also to kind of help me with all of the processes of the interview was really, 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 really great. And I think that's why I passed.
Ah, okay, interesting. Do you think, okay, this is kind of related. Do you think a master's is important? Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, like for me personally, I don't see the point of taking the masters, because like for software engineering specifically, because the projects you work with directly is more important than like the actual practical skills you get into while being a software engineer is more important than all of the theoretical parts of it. Yes, it's important, but it's not as important per se. I would have taken the masters if I didn't have a bachelor's in software engineering or computer science or anything related to that. But I wouldn't take masters of software engineering right now. And for data scientists, I think I would have taken AI masters. Uh, I was considering a more of a scientific way. There was like two paths I wanted to take: either corporate startup, like trying the corporate way and trying my own startup as well at the backgrounds, or trying a PhD kind of way and getting into science, getting into more of a deeper levels of it. And I like while exploring that, I quickly noticed that in the kind of a science level, yes, masters will be very important. I would have probably applied for all of these programs, get into masters, then get into PhD, then probably try to work on something completely new in that area, and try to work on more of a deeper things, deeper level things. But while looking at different metrics, and plus I also passed number of personality tests for myself, and there was a very interesting one, which is Clifton Strengths. I quickly realized that this will not be exhibiting all of my strongest skills. This will be. So that's why I decided to go for corporate and startup way. In corporate and startup, I don't think you really need masters.
Ah, okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Those are great questions.
Yeah. All right. This one also, I have one more. As a fellow international student, how did you end up in Spain? Like, why did you decide to go there?
Good question. So, to be honest, like I personally love countries such as Singapore, Hong Kong, those vibrant kind of cities. Um, the like New York, maybe, or maybe London, but and of course Silicon Valley per se. But why did I choose Spain? I didn't choose Spain because of the country on its own. I knew this is not my country, and I'm not planning to stay here for long. I decided to go to Spain because it had a project that was interesting to work with. When I passed the interview, that was basically in Japan at the time. The on-site was in Japan, and they kind of offered me a different locations. And then they also mentioned that these are the products you'll be working with. I didn't look at the location as much as I was looking at the product I will be working with. As I mentioned, I'm more of a fan of the product. And the countries that were more interesting to me, such as Japan or UK, or not UK, there was other ones, Germany, they were working on internal projects. And those internal projects, I wouldn't be able to say to you guys right now what I'm working with right now, because it's also internal things. External, like you still be able to kind of talk about it, not necessarily in depth, but at least you can mention that you can go here, and then that's the thing that I'm working at. And for external projects, I was really into working with customers directly, seeing how our products are changing their behaviors, and seeing how to deal with millions of customers at once, because scaling is really hard. And there are quite a number of cases where startups are like they just increase the numbers of people, and then their services are failing. So how to maintain that, right? So those are the things that caught my interest mostly. And Amazon has Kindle and books in general, so you would be directly interacting with customers, and therefore that's why I choose Spain, but my plan is US.
Okay, interesting.
Thanks.
So after your undergrad, right, how did you transition into work?
How do you do what?
How did you transition into work after your undergraduation?
Ah, you mean after university, right?
Yes.
So that's an interesting part. As I mentioned, it was all, like, on my second year. We had an internship, and I was doing an internship. It's mentioned here, by the way, as an Internet of Things engineer at Next Academy. So I was doing some aircon conditioning project there. That was quite fun to do. And right afterwards, I realized that it's like university will not get me anywhere, and I have to start working as a freelance developer. So therefore, I was getting all of the jobs, getting all of the freelance projects in my hands. And towards the end of it, like before we even graduated, I was already having two offers in my hands for full-time positions, as a software engineer at one and as a mobile developer at the second one. So I think, like, the most important part of it was the networking I've got, the experience I've got while being a student. And despite having some attendance issues that I had to deal with my lecturers, I think it was all worth it, because at the end of the day, I still had my job settled for me. And when I went to the graduation at my university, I was already working full time for like 2 to 3 months by then. And like that was the kind of the feeling got. So for example, for my main job that I have accepted the offer from, it was at one of the hackathons. We basically made it to top 10, but we didn't make it to top 3. But the CIO of my ex company was there as a judge, so he referred me, and therefore this whole process started. With like the most important thing at the beginning is a referral. If somebody who is high enough refers you, that will be a very strong point for them to consider you, despite you being in like international student, despite them going through the hassle of giving you the visa. So yeah, that's how I got it.
Okay. Thanks a lot. All right. For all the other participants, feel free to ask questions in the link provided. I think some of them are shy.
Come on, guys, I'm not gonna bite. Okay. Okay. Nothing is here yet. Okay. Should we wait, or how does it work?
Maybe we wait like 5 minutes. I
Okay.
think some people got questions. They'll be tapping soon.
Okay. Mm, good questions. What are the important skills needed for software engineering? Uh, the like there are quite a number of it, but those are the skills that you can acquire so long as you have some sort of a logical thinking in your hands. So um, most of the time in software engineering, the people that I see excelling the most are usually the people who are very into analytical thinking, very into logic first before anything else. So so long as you have that grudge, so long as you have that kind of uh, the kind of a feel and need to prove it, to kind of like if you loved, like for example in your school times, if you loved solving problems, if you're basically a problem solver, then yes, you will be able to excel so long as you acquire the right skills. The right skills could be different depending on the kind of the field and tech field that you're entering. For example, if it's Android development, then I would go ahead and suggest you going for Java and Kotlin and probably Flutter, probably. It's becoming more and more popular these days. So like it depends on which field you're choosing, and I would suggest, if you don't know which one yet, to try different things and see for yourself. Maybe taking some project, maybe inventing your own project, and maybe joining a startup that already has some project ongoing, and then the ones that are very at the very early stage who are willing to teach you. So yeah, I would rather go there and get the skills needed. So in that sense, like so long as you have that problem solver kind of ability, you can go ahead and learn those skills that are required, depending on whatever field you're choosing. So yeah, that's my advice here. And like you can be more specific and ask which field you are interested specifically in, and then I can suggest the technology that will be relevant there. Okay, what languages can I remove it so that I don't get, I don't know. Okay, what languages do you think are important for software dev nowadays? Uh, there was this interesting overview of programming languages that I've seen recently as a graph being posted. Uh, I think it was, I don't remember which company, but like it was interesting to see. So they were basically saying that fund level kind of companies, what are the languages they use the most, and the most winning one was Java and Python, like the majority of things, and JavaScript. So these three, I think, if you know any of them, you're good to go. Java is a kind of, if you're into working with backends, if you're interested more in the hardcore stuff. Python might be that you're more of a hybrid. You can actually go for some of the backend, but also you can do some data science stuff as well if you know Python, or like some of the data cleaning as well. And for JavaScript, of course, you would most probably be good at front end if you were to choose JavaScript. And actually, Node.js is taking over, so you could also be good at backend as well. And I'm not saying that they're important, I'm saying that they are most used. There is no such thing as important. It depends on the project. It depends on what kind of the nature of the project you're going to be working with. So for example, if it's something that is related to banking, I'll probably go for Java because it's more secure. If it's something related to, I don't know, like data related, then I will go for Python because it has more libraries there suitable to work with data than like other languages, for example, and it has way more vibrant community from whom I can ask questions from if I'm stuck or anything. What is the most rewarding part of being a software engineer? Salary. Okay, I'm a bit like honest here, maybe too honest, but the rewarding part, of course, is the salary you're getting, and also Another rewarding part is the fact that sorry. Yeah, I know. um, and another thing is the fact that you're working in changing the current stigmas of the world, and the fact that you are not out of the job despite corona hitting over. Actually, you're in a very much more needed industry right now, if you're into software engineering. And plus, um, like the amount of jobs, I feel like they increased compared to before corona and after, for software engineering specifically. And like the fact that it's more of a hands-on, the fact that it's more of a, I know, like you're working with the right directly with the technologies that are very needed right now, and without which most of the people can't even imagine their lives right now. And the fact that you can change the trajectory of all of this is very, very, very rewarding. And as part of the ikigai of mine for software engineering, I feel like the most important part is that I can shape and like differently approach the problems on its own. For internship, what are requirements needed for us to be considered, especially if you're looking into software engineering? Uh, for internship, I think that's a very interesting question, and that's kind of the interesting. I have a very like good friend of mine. She's working at Google, and I loved her comments about it, because for internship, what she said basically, I'll just repeat her words. For internship, I think you should be applying as earliest as you could for all of these FANG companies, because the earlier you apply, the less are there for requirements to be like to meet for you. So the lesser the requirements means the easier it is for you to apply. If you were to be in the industry for quite some time and then applying, it will be harder for you because the level will be higher and the things they will ask will be way more advanced. So for internships, I think the requirements are there to basically have some sort of level of coding experience. Um, for Google, what I know is they mostly accept the ones who participate in all these coding competitions. And coding competitions, I mean ACMP challenges, all of these kind of programming contests. And the bigger the level is the more chances that there are that you're going to get in, because my friend basically, she managed to get into internship quite easily because she was into all of these programming competitions since school. And despite the fact that you might not be in school but at university, you still have a chance to participate in all these competitions and get into like FANG level companies. And another thing I think would be to consider is your job experience, like getting all of these side hustles, like while you're studying at university. I would suggest you to start working since the day one to basically, like, even if you work for free, it's still counted. Many of my friends who are now earning quite a sum started for free because they wanted to just be into all of it and get the skill needed while they are still studying. So the working for free while you're still studying is not as painful as working for free while you were full-time, supposed to be full-time employee after graduation. So while you're studying, you would be getting all of this knowledge, all the skills, and you can put it in your resume, and that will be very, very appealing for your employee, and therefore getting the internship will be easier. Plus all these hackathons, events, I think it will still be strengthening your CV. So the most important thing is to strengthen your CV as much as you could by having all of this diverse experience of yours. Can you share what freelancing projects have you done during schooling, your schooling? Sure. There were a lot. There were too many to share in one talk, but I think I can mention one of them, which was a very interesting one. So there was a friend of mine that I met in one of the hackathons. I think it was the same hackathon that I was referred to. And he basically had a project which was a drink dispenser project, which was basically trying to get Google Home to talk in 3 different languages that at that time it was not having these languages. Like Google Translate was not having some of the languages that it was required to have. So what I did was kind of translated it in different with different APIs, and then get that response. So I had to translate it to English, to then from English to that language to get back the response, because there was no other way to do that at that time. And it was quite fun because I was working with API.ai directly, and it was just released recently. That's why I didn't have all of these languages. And the fact that I could work with Google Home, the assistant, was very fun. There was another one which was augmented reality game. Basically, the point was to connect the Kinect with the moving objects. So you had to catch all those objects while it was shown on the screen. So probably you guys have seen it in all of these PlayStation kind of games. PlayStation kind of centers where there is Kinect and then you can dance or something as such. So that is called sort of augmented reality. So I got the skeleton tracking. I was working with Kinect before, so skeleton tracking was something that I was familiar with. And I was getting the skeleton, and then I was getting the movements of the person, and basically getting the moment when it catches the object and adding up to the point. So it was 3 minutes game, and then they had to catch all of these objects, and they have to avoid bumps. So there was sounds on, and I was doing with Visual Studio C#. I wouldn't recommend doing it with those. It was super slow. Memory management was really bad, and that's where I realized that I'm not going to game development because that's too much for me. So yeah, that's the thing. 2 projects that came to my mind straight away. But there were more of those. I wouldn't go too much into it. Is it easy to do freelancing? Who said it's easy? It's not. It's like if you were to be excelling, it's never easy. So, but it depends on your priorities, right? It depends on what you want at the end of the day. I was wanting to have a full-time job that was having a decent salary, that was having decent amount of benefits, and for myself at that point, I had to work extra hard because I am a foreigner, and for those Malaysians, they could easily get a job that I wouldn't be able to get just because I'm from Kazakhstan. So therefore, I didn't really consider whether it's hard or easy. I just had to do it in order to get to the point of getting all of those benefits that I wanted. So it wasn't easy. I was burned out. I was really having a huge burnout on my 3rd level and end of my 3rd level because, at the beginning it was fine. It was like freelance projects here, and then studies are going here because they are not necessarily required. Like they don't require my attention yet. And then they just come here with my final year project, and then they clash, and that's where it became really, really hard to manage it. And at that point, I was like, okay, I give up all of these freelance projects. I have my full-time job ready. Then bye. so I'm not saying that I gave up. I was like, okay, I need to wrap it up, and then don't take any more of those freelance projects at that point in time. So even now, but that kind of experience teaches you to have not only one side like income, but also different side incomes. And this is important, especially coronavirus kind of showed you guys how important it is to not only have one source, but different other sources, is because you have a plan B, and you have a plan C, and you have a plan D. Then if plan A kind of didn't work out, then you have a plan B. If plan B doesn't work out, you have plan C. So that's the kind of the feel of freelancing. No, it's not easy. What's the most enjoyable software engineering role? That's an interesting question. I really loved working with virtual reality. I think in terms of virtual reality, I would wish to go back to it one day when I have more money because it's very expensive. And it's interesting because it's very it's very into the kind of the world that I wish to create. So like the IoT and virtual reality are kind of 2 things that I would wish to work in the future when I have enough finances to sponsor all of the projects, all of the crazy ideas that I have. And these two, I think, would be very much into daily usage one day. They are there already in for example, in China or US, and they are part of their life, of people's life by now. It's not happening in Europe, of course. They are more conservative, but like I think those two will be very, very in high demand, so long as they deal with that issue with virtual reality, where there is emotion sickness and where you have to carry this huge thing with you all over the place. Then yeah, that were the most exciting ones, but they are not so profitable ones to work with right now. So mobile web are the most profitable right now. Profitable in what sense? You'll be able to find a job, and that job will be well paid. Do you think networking is highly important for job opportunities in soft dev? How to get networks if everybody in tech are so busy? Yeah, we are busy people. What was there? Unit tester. And that's fun. Okay. Well, it is important. It's as important as your hard skills. So I would say that the people who were focusing more on technical skills and neglected networking, at the end of the day, they didn't get a job. They were all going back to their own countries. And I saw that. I felt like it's a waste, but I couldn't do anything because they weren't spending enough time for networking. Networking, like in what sense? Those are the people you will be potentially working with, right? So so long as you're solo, that changes one thing, which is you. So long as you're working with a team, then that's where the margins are getting bigger. So you're not necessarily have to be networking with people you're not interested in networking with, right? Those are tech people. Those are the people that are interested in technologies, same as you. You have something to talk with. You have something to share and potentially to learn from them and potentially to share them and bring some value to their lives. So why not, right? Why not giving that kind of the synergy where 1+1 could be equal to many other, like thousands of people, right? So here I would say that it's very like it's as important as your hard skills. So I would rather suggest you to maintain both at once. And how to gain networks if everybody in tech are so busy? Not necessarily that they're busy. Like you have to go to places where they would potentially go. You don't have to chase them like directly. They will most probably not going to reply. But if you were to meet them at their environment, where you will be a participant of that environment too, then they would be interested to talk to you for sure. And you will have reasons to talk to them because they might be your judges, they might be your mentors for like hackathons or for those Google events. And as I mentioned a couple of times in the workshops I've given before, don't be a simple participant. Be someone that has some importance in that event. What does it mean? Like in chess, right? You have all of these pawns that are not necessarily important, and there is knight, there is queen. So instead of being a pawn as a participant, I should say, you have to be a queen or a knight at least to be able to kind of catch someone else's attention. They will chase you, not you will chase them. And while you are a knight at that event means that people approach you, not you approach them. So you kind of change the game. And how do you do it? By being at least a volunteer at the beginning of those events, being somewhat organizer in organizing team, trying to get into speaking role, like getting into the committee and then try to ask them to be a speaker. If you're a woman in tech, that will be even easier because there is always lack of women as a speaker in tech events, especially for Google. They're really into diversity. And you also would wish to be not like for hackathons, try to win to catch that attention, or at least get into top some kind of levels. That would be already good enough for somebody else to notice you. Then what else? Yeah, or like being a hackathon organizer too would be very useful as well. Is portfolio also important in software engineering? Is portfolio also important? What do you mean by portfolio? It's important in software engineering. Like the works that you've done? I think portfolio is usually important for the ones that are into design. Like it depends on what portfolio you're meaning. If it's about the CV and about the projects you've done, then yes, of course it's important. Like the insights of the CV could give is to provide links for your projects you work with. So for example, you work with the project, the hackathon project, and then you have a demo session. Record that demo, attach it to your CV, or get the GitHub link, make it public, attach it to your CV. And that's kind of easy. Like you can go to Overleaf, which is right here, and attach that href link to your resume, portfolio, you name it, and then that will be easier for them to review it. Another insight that could help is to have your own personal website. Your own personal website, which will have number of information about you, a more detailed one, and that will showcase not only your skills as a developer, that you actually managed to create a website, but also showcase what you've got aside from what you have in your resume. The more you grow, the more experience you get, the bigger it gets, and you can't really fit it all in one resume. So therefore it's easier for you to just create a website which will have everything that you've achieved so far. Okay.
All right, I think those are all the questions.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks, Dara. Really appreciate it. Really appreciated your point of view.
Thank you. Was glad to be here.
Thanks
Thanks
a lot.
for the invite. Bye bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.